Hey, let me tell you a story. It started in whispers, in dark corners of encrypted chats, private groups, invitation-only threads. They called it the Red Room. Not a place you found, a place that found you. There was no address, no phone number, no contact form. Just a link, a message, a price. $10,000 wired in full. No refunds. One night. Total discretion. No questions asked. No answers given. The ones who paid thought they were getting something special. High-end BDSM, a private fantasy. No rules. No limits. They believed they were buying power. Or giving it away. What they were really buying was death. But not everyone died. That was the genius. Some men left. Satisfied. Shaking. Grinning. They posted quiet praises on locked forums. Left 5-star tips in crypto. Spoken code. But always with awe. That's what made it work. That's why no one suspected a thing. Because some came back. Again and again. Because not all of them vanished. Only the chosen. Only the young. The healthy. The valuable. The ones with blood that flowed strong and clean. The ones whose hearts, livers, and lungs were worth thousands more than they had paid. They were never picked by accident. She studied them before they arrived. Their profiles, their photos, what they ate, what they drank, what they posted online when they thought no one was watching. She knew who would live, who would leave, who would be harvested. The room itself looked like a dream. Red walls, steel fixtures, leather straps, dim lights that never flickered, music low and constant, a scent that was sweet and sterile. There were no cameras, at least none you could see, no signs of struggle, no sound that reached the street. She met them at the door in silk. She smiled. She spoke soft. She let them think they were in control. Then came the drink, then the restraints, then the whisper in the hallway. Two men in suits stepped forward, not bodyguards, not staff, executors, cleaners. They waited for her signal. When she nodded, they locked the front door. That was the line. No one crossed it twice. The clients never screamed. They thought it was part of the game. The silk cord around the throat, the breath slipping out, the eyes slowing. She watched, counted seconds, checked the pulse, then stepped back. The men moved fast, plastic sheeting, acid drums, cooled boxes marked for transport, phones wiped, destroyed, thrown into rivers or crushed on back roads. Nothing left, nothing tracked, nothing found. The police never came because they used the room too. Some of them paid, some were paid off. Everyone had a reason to stay quiet, and the business thrived because the dead never talk. And the living, they just wanted another night. The man was 34, gym 5 times a week, no drugs, no chronic illness, no tattoos. His blood work had been stolen from a private lab 2 months before the session. She read it twice. Perfect candidate. He thought he found the room by luck. In truth, he was baited, tagged, watched. He paid without question. No haggling, no hesitation. She greeted him like she had greeted the others. Smile, warmth, respect. She let him believe he was special. The room was dim and soft, clean towels, soft restraints. Everything smelled expensive. He asked if there were cameras. She smiled and said no. He believed her. They always did. The session began slow. She let him speak, listened to his secrets, encouraged him to confess. She asked what scared him, what excited him, what he dreamed about when no one was watching. He told her everything. He always thought his fantasies were too much. She told him they weren't, that he could go further here, that he was safe. When she wrapped the silk cord around his neck, he smiled, thought it was part of the story, thought she'd stop. She didn't. She tightened it slowly, deliberately. He tried to gasp, couldn't. She watched his hands twitch, listened for the silence, then held for 10 more seconds. When she stepped back, he was gone. No panic, no chaos. The 2 men entered quietly, gloves on, no words. One of them checked the pulse to confirm. The other rolled a cart beside the table. They moved like surgeons. Fast, clean, The body was transferred to the prep room, laid out on stainless steel. Organs were removed with care, tagged, packed, preserved. The heart alone would bring 5 figures. The liver was spoken for, the lungs, fresh. Everything else was stripped, teeth pulled, prints burned, blood drained, bones crushed. Whatever remained was dissolved in acid. The acid was disposed of in legal facilities through front companies. No waste, no trace. The phone had already been taken, driven out of town by a third man in an unmarked car, left in a bus station, set to ping, then smashed and tossed into a trash fire. By the time anyone checked his location, he was hundreds of miles from where he died. His bank account showed a single payment, no refund, no return. On paper, he had disappeared into pleasure. Online, he was just another ghost. The reviews kept coming. Real clients, real sessions, real satisfaction. That's what made it genius. Because most people who entered the Red Room left it alive. Not all, but enough to keep the lie believable, enough to keep the machine running. The men were loyal, former military, paid well, trained to clean, extract, eliminate. She trusted them with everything. They never touched the clients, never questioned her choices. They handled the bodies and nothing more. The business had rules, order, discipline. Death was not random. It was selected, deserved, controlled. They took pride in that. A perfect kill, a silent room, a clean floor. Then back to waiting for the next knock on the door. She didn't kill often. That was the trick. If every client died, someone would notice. If too many disappeared, someone would ask questions. But every few weeks, one would vanish. Quietly, elegantly, the others. They left satisfied. Some of them even came back. They recommended the room to friends, shared it like a secret wine, said it changed their lives, that it healed something in them. No one suspected a thing, because nothing about her looked dangerous. She was grace and control. She was pleasure with rules. She kept detailed files, photos, health data, risk factors. She had people on payroll, clinic assistants, data brokers, club doormen. They fed her names, faces, targets. She never picked someone poor, never someone loud. Only those who wouldn't be missed for a few days. Men with private lives, loose schedules, disposable habits. She picked them like fruit, checked their ripeness, watched them online. She knew what they liked, who they followed, what they searched at night. The Red Room wasn't just a place, it was a network, and she was the center. The guards followed her rules. No mistakes, no improvisation. They did what had to be done, nothing more. No emotion, no mess. After every kill, the room was cleaned to clinical perfection. Every wall wiped, every tool sanitized. They replaced everything that touched the client. Bedding, gloves, towels. If one hair was left behind, it was burned. Every 6 months, the room was remodeled. New floors, new walls, just in case. The location changed twice a year. Same city, different address. Always rented through shell companies. Always under a different name. No one ever knew the whole picture. That was by design. Even the guards didn't know where the organs went. Only she did. She spoke to the buyers. She made the calls. She arranged the shipments. One heart to South America, one liver to Germany, the rest to the highest bidder. The black market loved her. They called her the cleaner. Always on time, always pure. No damaged goods, no complications. Some of the buyers never knew the truth. They thought they were getting material from the hospital. Donors, accidents, they paid without questions. Just like the clients, and if a question ever came too close, it disappeared. She had protection, real protection, not just money. Influence, the kind that comes in uniform, the kind that shakes your hand and forgets your name. Local commanders, corrupt inspectors, men who had their own secrets. Some of them had visited the Red Room, others had daughters who did. Favors were traded, blind eyes turned. That's why no one came looking. That's why no one ever kicked down the door. Because if the Red Room fell, too many names would fall with it, too many careers, too many lies. So she kept it clean, organized, professional. She killed only when needed, harvested only the best, and waited for the right client, for the right moment, for the next one who would walk in smiling and never walk out again. He looked like the others. Young, healthy, expensive watch, confident smile, but something felt off. She sensed it the moment he stepped through the door. Not fear, not hesitation, curiosity. He watched closely. His eyes moved differently. He touched the walls like he was measuring something. She stayed calm, played her part, poured the drink, led him to the chair. The guards were ready. One glance and they would lock the door. But she didn't give the signal. Not yet. She needed to be sure. He undressed slowly, said all the right things, flirted without pressure, responded with practiced charm. It felt rehearsed, to perfect. She tightened the straps, asked the usual questions. He answered with ease. No tension, no lies, but nothing she could use. She leaned closer, watched his pupils, his breath, his pulse, all steady. He wasn't afraid. He was waiting, watching, measuring how long she would hold control. She smiled, touched his cheek, whispered that he was safe here, that he could go as far as he wanted. He nodded, told her he trusted her, but in his eyes, something flickered. She stepped back, left the room. In the hallway, she spoke low. Not yet, observe. No cleanup. Not tonight. The guards nodded. He stayed strapped, waited, breathing slowly. After 10 minutes, she returned. No mask, no silence, just her. She leaned down and whispered, "Why are you here?" He smiled, said, "Just curious. Wanted to see if the stories were true." She asked, "What stories?" He replied, "The kind that end with no one walking out." She stared at him. He didn't blink. She said, "People talk too much," he said, "only when they survive." She didn't move. The guards were behind the door, listening, hands ready. But she raised her hand, stopped them, walked around the table, untied the first strap, then the second. She said, "I don't think you're here to play," he said. "I'm not." She asked, "Are you a cop?" He laughed. "No, worse." She didn't press, just stood in silence, then nodded once. He dressed, smoothed his sleeves, walked to the door, paused, turned, and said, "You should close the room soon." Then he left. No threats, no evidence, just a warning. She stood there long after the door closed, thinking, not panicking, just thinking. The guards asked if they should follow. She said no, not yet. The system held. For now, no police, no news, no pressure. The next night, another client arrived. Young, fit, alone. She smiled, opened the door, and let him in, because fear does not stop a machine like this. It only sharpens it. And in the Red Room, death was never an accident. It was a choice, a business, a craft, a service, perfected, in silence, paid in advance, always final. Subscribe while you still can.